welcome everyone to the Mark Anthony Lord Spirituality and Recovery webinar. So on sexandrelationshiphealing.com. So thank you, Mark, for taking us on a spiritual journey.
I'm so happy to be here, and I just really appreciate you more and more, Tammy, and the whole team for creating the space and supporting these conversations. I hope that you enjoy them. Kind of a cool job, I guess, to have to show up for all these conversations.
It's always beneficial for me. As long as I've been in recovery, I learn something new every single time. And I'm on several different recovery groups, and I've shared links to various, like people will be struggling with some spirituality or whatever. And like the Serenity Prayer one that we did, you did, breaking down the Serenity Prayer. I shared that. I've shared other things. You know, I love the one where you were also breaking down the higher power. It's like, you don't have to have the same concept that you had before. So I think they're all great. It's really a different way to look at things. So
I love the conversation. Happy to be here, and thank you, whoever's here with us today. And as always, for those who are listening later to this conversation, we honor you and we give thanks for your recovery. And we know that you'll get out of this whatever's perfect for you. So, as Tammy said, I like to begin our times together with some mindfulness practice or meditation, centering. Those are all different words to just use to say, to get into ourselves. Throughout the day, we get pulled in all these different directions. Emotionally, we fragment when we get triggered by things. People say things and we fragment out, and the thoughts that we have that make us feel a little crazy or unsettled, those cause us to fragment out all day long. It's like moving through a big field with landmines, and when we step on them or come close to them, we just get more and more disconnected sometimes. So centering, meditation, that's our time to bring all of that self back into our center and get reconnected. So why don't you join me in doing that, if it's possible, where you are, to close your eyes and take a deep breath. If you can't, that's completely fine. Even breathing more deeply while we do our centering in the beginning of our time together, your breathing deeply will make a difference. So let's begin with that. I'm going to close my eyes and just take some nice, slow, deep breaths, really feeling the inhale. Breathe in through the nose, feel the breath go down, all the way down into the belly. Feel the body expand and expand it even a little more. And then on the exhale, feel the body relax. We'll do that again, breathing in through the nose. Expanding. And exhale. I like to imagine my spine growing taller on the exhale. Breathe in through the nose a third time, nice and slow. Pay attention to it. Pay attention to the body expanding. When you reach a full breath, exhale. Imagine the spine lengthening and the muscles relaxing. And place your attention in the center of your head. I use the head, the brain, to represent the thinking faculty, all the thoughts that we have. Breathe into your head and just say to your thoughts, peace, be still. And imagine all your thoughts scurrying out, just like mice in a kitchen when the cat walks in. All the thoughts just scurry away, and just for a moment, imagine a calm, peaceful lake, a body of water, so calm. That's how the mind can be. Invite the mind to become calm. Allow your attention to float down beneath your rib cage, right to the center of your body between your stomach and your ribs. That's the seat of your solar plexus. And that's the place that I use to represent the emotional body, our feeling nature. And just take a moment and tune into how you're feeling, and perhaps the journey of feelings that you had today. Perhaps you had some upset or some sadness, some fear, some fun and joy. Maybe that was present. Or maybe you had some sexual energy that got stirred up. You know, that's a beautiful energy. For some of us here in this room, if you struggle with sexual addiction, that energy got exaggerated or misused and abused for many of us. But at the core of it, it's just a beautiful, creative force. So notice the feelings that you had throughout the day, what you're having now. And see if you can just say to your emotional body, peace, be still. And imagine all the feelings just relaxing and letting go. Breathe into the center of your body. Calm mind. Relaxed feelings. And allow your attention to rise up from your solar plexus into the center of your chest, representing your heart. And imagine right in the center of your chest, not your physical heart, but like your spiritual heart. Perhaps you can see it as a Valentine heart. That's kind of what it can look like, or maybe a flower. But something opens up right in the center of your chest, your heart. And as it opens, imagine a flower opening. That's a nice image. A flower opens up in the center of your chest. And imagine that it releases the energy of self-acceptance, self-love, forgiveness. Imagine that forgiveness is just pouring out of your heart. And if you can imagine it to be like golden light. And it's coming out of your heart, and it goes through your whole body, down into your torso and your hips and your legs and feet, and up into your shoulders and arms and hands and neck and face and head. Your whole body is filled with this golden light of forgiveness. And imagine it's like, I don't know, like purifying, cleansing light. And it just dissolves out of your body all the stories you've been holding against yourself, the things that you did that you're not letting go of. Let this be the moment where you let forgiveness set you free. Golden light just purifies your body temple, your mind, your emotions. Inside yourself, I am willing to be forgiven. I am willing to be here now. And I'm willing to grow spiritually. I am willing to grow spiritually. Take a nice deep breath. And I like to bring our meditation time to a close with the Serenity Prayer. So where you are, you can say it with me, wonderful, or just receive these words as we close our meditation with the prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Take a nice deep breath, and if you did close your eyes, open them whenever you're ready. Love centering. It's so good for the body and soul. So thanks for doing that. So tonight last week, I talked about the third step and the idea of making a decision and what is that about. And I talked about the idea that a decision is not a one-time deal, that in recovery, we make a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of our higher power on a daily basis, sometimes, as we know, on an hourly basis, on a moment-to-moment basis. But when we, and I talked about the idea that when we can make the decision, that means we have choice. And when we have choice, that means that recovery is here, even in the times when it feels like it's a sliver, because perhaps the ego or the fear or the addict is screaming so loud. Even in those moments, if we can decide, there's freedom. There's a moment of freedom, and that's what grows. And that's what, in my experience, becomes, that's what I've come to know as more and more my experience. The freedom is greater. It's like the recovery, the spiritual part grew really big, and the addict part shrunk in comparison, where in the beginning, perhaps if you're like me, the addict was gigantic and the spiritual part couldn't even be found.
Agree. Yeah.
So that's a gift of the program for sure. And today I want to stay on the third step and interrupt anytime or chime in anytime. Tammy, I don't mean to interrupt, chime in, because I always love your thoughts. I want to stay on step 3 for a minute, because I was studying that and thinking about that the last couple of days. And the thing that came to me in some of the readings that inspired me was the idea that the third step requires faith or trust. And those are words, especially faith, that can be for some of us like this sort of religious word that is confusing, and, oh, you got to have faith, or just have faith, sort of a thing that can be thrown around, but it doesn't really have, what does it mean? And what is it when you have faith? And the definition that I love the most for faith is, and actually is my definition, and maybe out there someone else has thought of it, but this is in some of my writing, it came to me, that at the simplest level, faith is focus. And think about this for a moment. Where you put your attention is what you believe in, or what you're driving your energy toward, your attention, your intention, where you place your faith, where you place your focus. If you have that, then what you place it upon begins to become a greater experience for you. So some people place their focus on the dangers and the fears of life, and that's what grows for them. They become more and more afraid, and one could even say, I don't think it's totally true, but one could say they have faith in fear. I think faith is a spiritual word, so I don't like to connect it with the negative, but for the moment, or you could say they have their focus on fear, and that's what grows. Simultaneously, we in recovery are learning how to place our focus, put our faith into positivity, support, connection. These are the words we use over and over and over, because that's what we want to grow. And the more that our focus on the good things in life, the connections, on our recovery, the more that becomes our experience. Like I described earlier, my addict was gigantic, my spirituality was small. Today, my spirituality is much larger, and I experience my addiction small. Well, that's through lots of years of putting my focus, my faith, into that which is good, true, healthy, and recovery-based. Now, the thing that I think we as addicts, I think many people in life, but we as addicts, where it breaks down for, at least let me speak for me, was that faith also implies a trust. It's like something to trust and believe in. And that's very often where, for us on our journey, and me on my journey, that's where the break was, because I didn't trust that there was this God or this higher power, because I didn't have proof of it in my childhood. My childhood had some real big traumas inside of it. I wasn't being shown how to trust life by the parents and the mentors who were also addicts in their own ways of life. And my household and my childhood was very unsafe. So to trust life or higher power or spirit, whatever it is for you, to trust that when life is not safe is very confusing for a young child. And if we grow up, I grew up not trusting, continuing to be in unsafe environments through high school. It got much safer in college. However, at that point, the addict in me was placing me in unsafe environments.
Yeah, yeah.
So, that was happening. So I was creating my own unsafe experience, sexual experiences, strangers, all of those things that the normal person on the street would be devastated to hear, like, oh my God, how could you do it to myself? But for me, that was normal. Like there was kind of I could get a high off of the danger component to it. So it increased distrust of life. So again, my upbringing there was no trust. And then I moved it into my adulthood, putting myself in unsafe environments. So do you
And
relate
don't you
to that?
also think, yeah, I do, but I also think we weren't trustworthy. So we were also reflecting that. So why would we trust anything when we know ourselves to be untrustworthy? So it's like, it's out there, but it's also from inside. So it wasn't safe.
Yeah.
And we didn't help it be safe. I mean, we couldn't be safe because we were addicts, but we were living in our addiction. We're still addicts. Okay. but just that whole thing, I was like, I wasn't trustworthy. I could be counted on in certain areas, but
yep.
Across the board, I mean, as an addict, I lied. I did all the things that would not make me trustworthy.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. Thank you. So that's like the inner and the outer, both kind of mirroring each other and creating an internal untrust. And you're right. If I am not being trustworthy, then I am seeing and experiencing an untrustworthy. And then I experience other people as not being trustworthy. You know what I mean? That's the filter that we end up
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a lot of healing.
Right.
That needs to change. So now we go, well, trust. Well, I don't have a lot of experience of that. And so that becomes the moving into the unknown. That becomes, oh, wow, this is a rewiring. This is the spiritual awakening, because now I am being called to literally create a new experience of life from a place where it didn't exist. Or I have little experience of it inside myself or in the world. So this is the game, and this is what's possible in the third step. And this is the muscle. Faith is also a muscle. The focus, the faith, it can grow as we learn to place it in new directions and new attention. And that is kind of like going to the gym. To me, it's like trying to change the body or change any other thing. Like it takes time and consistency. I heard, Simon Sinek.
I've not well enough to, but I've heard. Yeah,
I dig this guy. He's just a real inspiration.
I'm writing it down.
Real inspirational guy. But he made a very simple analogy. He said, I could go to the gym for 9 hours and work nonstop and then expect my body to change, and it won't change. Or I could go to the gym 3 or 4 days a week for 20 minutes consistently. Mm-hmm. And when it added up to 9 hours, you would see a change. And that's true with spiritual practice. I think the analogy is it works. If we do little bits consistently over time, and sometimes pretty quickly, we start to feel and experience that change. And learning to trust our higher power. And even, I don't know if this word works for you, but I've really come to appreciate, and I do experience myself trusting life. One of my affirmations is that life is friendly and it is for me. And that's really important because it doesn't look friendly at times and it kind of goes against what I'm thinking and what I'm seeing. But I really have come to believe that in my spiritual awakening requires me to really have that kind of trust that life is good and is for me and there's help. And that's become my full experience, right?
Right.
Other thoughts on that?
Well, I want to go back to where you talked about attention and intention, because even with this, the consistency, and the focus. So if I'm focused and if I'm intentional, because as an addict, I know I was not intentional. I was reactive and just kind of bouncing off at anything. And reacting to people, situations, events, which, as we talked about in the Serenity Prayer, to slow that all down and be intentional about my actions instead of reacting. But I like what you're talking about, is like, if I focus on trusting, if I make little baby steps towards that, and do believe that the world is a positive place, and I do believe that there's way more good than bad, and I can find it if I'm intentional about looking for that. So it's where I turn my focus and my lens, is how I'm going to view things. So, that doesn't mean that I should trust things that are not trustworthy, and there are plenty out there. But I think as you grow in this too, like developing the muscles, I learned to be able to better discern what was more trustworthy, and what, like, if it didn't feel safe, because now I could tell, because it used to be nothing was safe, and now I can tell if something is safe or not. And it took time, but I think most of the time, I can sense that. Not 100%. Some people can still pull one over on me, but I'm okay with that. I would rather go into things trusting and get burned every now and then than to perceive that there's, that it's all bad, everybody's out to get me, and have to have that negative lens.
Yeah, that's really good. It speaks to the wisdom that we gain through program. You have the wisdom now to discern, and you said, it's not about perfection, but it's way better than before. So yeah, that's good. That's wonderful. So I want to bring a few things here about how do we begin to trust? How do we build this muscle? Because that's really, the question. Great, I understand it. Not a great childhood. Didn't trust. I wasn't trustworthy. Became an adult. Rewiring. That's where we are. So, and how do we? The first thing that I think is a great, simple, and fun, and it has a childlike wonder energy to it, is to look for the ways that life is supporting you. Look for the ways that it has been supporting you, because it's like when we're wired to see, oh, I'm not being supported here, I'm not being supported here, we can lose sight of the 99 ways that we are, because we're breaking down so intensely in one area of life, or we don't feel support when we get ourselves into relationships or addictive experiences, and sort of all the support disappears, or whatever happens to us when we get consumed by that. We lose sight of the things that are working, or we lose sight of all the ways that life is for us. It's sort of like, if I'm trained as a child, or in my experience, that the red rose equals love, and I want somebody to give me a red rose, I can be given 100 yellow roses. But my mind is going, I'm not loved.
Right.
Because I'm being given a red rose, or I'm not getting my red rose. So that's sort of what can happen to us when it comes about trusting life or trusting a higher power. We're so focused on looking at the place where it's not happening that we lose perspective. So the way to kind of step back, broaden our view, and broaden our perspective is to look for the simple ways that it's happening. And that's why I say, if you can keep it light and fun, like the moment I get up, gravity is helping me. Like there's support, and it's in the obvious ways that we take for granted. There's gravity to keep me on this earth. At least in my life, I can go right into the bathroom and turn on the water, and there's water supporting me. There's so much about life that is working and supporting me. I can go into a grocery store and I can get a meal of any kind in about 10 minutes. That's a blessing on this earth at this time. And again, I take that for granted But when I'm looking like, how am I being supported today? I don't have to work to get food. I don't have to work to get water. I'm standing on this planet. There's I have people that I can call and connect with. It's sort of like making our, not our gratitude list, but our,
I actually thought of that. I was
yeah,
thinking, I think one of the first things I did was started making a gratitude list, and it included, the people in my 12-step community, the people, and as those people, or even my family supporting me, because I did have supportive parents, and so even that, then I started making connections of, oh, this person is, supporting me. And
yeah.
will they fail me? Sure, they're human. Oh, and guess what? I will too. And that took a long time to figure out. But I did. I thought of, oh, well, we talked about gratitude lists, and that was a start for me.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. I and the thing that I was excited about talking about this is that yesterday I had an employee who came into my office and she was upset because she didn't get recognized at the meeting. And it was a complete oversight on my part. I wasn't, you know what I mean? I had
Mm-hmm.
nothing. I had
Mm-hmm.
nothing going on except, getting through my agenda. And I recognized a couple employees and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
recognize this other person. And so she came in my office and she was really shaken. Now, the thing is, this employee is one of my best employees. Phenomenal. Like I tell everybody, I mean, literally, I'm thanking this person. I'm like, you're a rock star. You're so amazing. Like I pour it on because it's genuine and it's real. But for some reason, in a public setting with all of my group there, it just hit that button where I'm not recognized.
Mm-hmm.
And so she came into my office and was really fighting for how I didn't recognize her in that one moment. And I was really listening, but I really saw, oh, this is, and we talked it through and we really got to this place, which I love. That's why I love my work. We got to the point where she could see, oh, if I'm not recognized in public, then I feel like I'm not being recognized at all.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the things that I had been doing over the past 2 weeks all disappeared.
It's yellow roses.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yellow roses. So look for the yellow roses,
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge all of them, and have fun with it. Notice the beautiful sky. I mean, like really, that's why, be childlike. Notice the simple, wonderful ways that we have always been supported, and that list will grow, just like the gratitude list. The second thing I want to share as my idea to build that muscle of faith and trust in your higher power and life, in your life, is to give support to others.
Mm-hmm.
If you're feeling unsupported, and this is just sort of an equation that works, and at least I know it in the spiritual world. If you feel like you're not loved, then give love. If you feel like you're not recognized, give recognition to someone else. It's that idea of giving the thing that you feel like you need and want. And it's sort of like it's a way to prime the pump, to get it flowing, because if you give something away, it will come back to you. So that's sort of the philosophy. The principle is when you give love, when you give generosity, when you give a helping hand, really give it in whatever way from, like, don't even analyze it, just give, then it will start coming back to you. And so if you give support to others, help people, help someone open their car door, and in the ways that you normally would just keep walking at the grocery store, sort of look around, where can I just give support in life? And I like to practice that on the anonymous level. Sure, I give
Yes.
support in my house when I can to my family and those things like that. But sometimes I can feel resentment in those areas because there's all our baggage, but to play the game of giving support anonymously and just looking to life, it's do you hear the focus there? I'm going to focus on where I can give a helping hand. That is a way to build the muscle where you will, over time, begin to see how supported you are. Yeah.
I absolutely agree. And I think it also takes the negative focus away. If I'm focusing on my want and my lack, then if I'm focusing on I can help somebody else, I feel good about myself, having done something, even if it's anonymously, which I love to do too. But it takes the focus off of me, which
Yeah.
is in my addict, it's me, 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 me. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's the self-centered part of the addiction. And, my growth is not to feel bad about. I don't feel bad that I get self-centered. That's what the addict is. like, welcome to being an addict. But this is the way to, there's something that shifts in us when we give support, when we give some help, and it's getting us out of ourselves. And that just over time, when we look, that'll change our mindset, and I believe that'll change our experience of life. And you will be, I bet, my conviction and my knowing is that we will feel more supported over time as we give that away. So
agree.
Yeah. And then my third one is, so the first one is look for the ways that life is supporting us. Just notice simple ways, build that list. The second way is to just simply give support, to even just begin your day with asking, higher power. I love the use me prayer. That's just and I don't even, there might be a real prayer, but my use me prayer is just, God, flow through me today. Use my hands, use my heart, use my voice, use my smile, use me for good, for whatever's best for thy will to be done through me. That invitation, that opening up to be used, and then just watch how it happens. Pay attention to that, and you'll see some pretty miraculous things. And the third thing, and this is the place where, so that's great. Those are the practice when we're not feeling like we're drowning. Then there's the time when I do get triggered and I'm convinced that I'm not supported, or I'm convinced, what do we do when we do, like I was telling the story about my employee who got so triggered in the experience that it was all consuming. It's kind of like that bomb goes off inside of us and we just can't see anything else. Those can be the most transformational times for us to connect with our higher power, to pray, and to just breathe, to learn. And this is a learning for all of us, I know, but to learn to sit in a trigger and to breathe and to say a prayer. And in the sitting in the middle of a trigger, my prayer is, God, please help me. God, please help me. Right here. That's my other one. Right here, God. Right here.
And right now.
Right here, right now. This would be great. This is good. Right now. That's the on the field, in the game moments. And, I think that too is that muscle builds over time. And suddenly I'm triggered, and I'm just breathing deeper, because when I get triggered, my breathing becomes shallow. The body reacts. That's just what happens. A physical reaction comes from the thought and the feeling and the fear of it. But the breath helps me relax. And I just see how long I can last without responding or reacting. That gap is what I'm going for, because that gap is where new opportunities, new patterns, a deeper spiritual experience of self, in that gap is where profound transformation can occur. And so, it starts with the gap not even being able to be seen. But again, we're talking about practice. Larger. It gets larger. And so those are some of the ideas on how to build our trust, focusing on the third step today. The more we trust that life supports us, the more we can learn to trust our higher power, the easier it is to give our life to it, right? You don't give your life to something you don't trust. No, thank you. I'll do it myself.
But how did that work out for me? Oh, yeah. One of the things I use often too is and this took time, but at some point I kind of went, I don't believe that my higher power is just going to drop me off now because everything that I've been through, and I'm still here. And so it was kind of like, I just have to have faith that, and trust that, there was a reason, and that my higher power isn't just going to suddenly go, well, that was nice, but I'm off to the next person that needs help, you know? So that was pretty comforting for me too. And I know what you're talking about, those, you know, in those triggered moments, and it just feeling like I cannot tolerate this one more second. And then you do. And then it's another second. And then you do, you know, and so, you know, the time, and then all of a sudden, and for me, it's the serenity prayer. That's one of my like
Yep.
totally go-tos, you know, because it helps me think about what can I change right now? Well, I can't change any of this stuff. All I can change is me. And so, you know, and if I start focusing on that and being able to just take a breath, and, you know, I was talking to Kristen Snowden, who was doing a webinar yesterday, and she talked about, you know, when we're in that reaction, it's this part of our brain that's the reptile brain that has no logic and no thought.
Yeah.
You know, so if I take a breath, it moves it up to this part where I can start getting some rational thoughts in there. And I thought, wow, that's really true. And if I look at those moments, I'm totally in that just like, no thought brain. So
Yeah.
I love, like, because if I'm here, then I'm also inviting my higher power into the space. You know what I mean? It's not just me, no thought. It's, you know, I can create that space so that I can look for, you know, support and trust and all those other things. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it takes practice.
It does. It does. And spirituality takes practice. I think that, you know, sometimes we think it's like, oh, this thing that just happens, or you have it or you don't. But I really believe it's like going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you consistency, practicing. That's what the program teaches. You know, I mean,
I was going to say
it all,
that the practice is doing the steps too. It's,
yep.
it's like, if you do the steps in step 12, we're told we'll have a spiritual experience, you know, so,
Yep.
and so the practice, if we just, you know, if we work our way through them and do what is suggested, because we don't want to be told, if we do what is suggested, then it promises that this can be true for us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. So I'm going to do a little guided experience.
Awesome.
And this week, I'm going to join you, and I invite you to join me in really looking for all the ways I'm supported. Really get filled up, fill my tank with noticing all the ways I'm supported, and look for ways to give support to other people. And I use the word support and trust simultaneously. It's kind of like, you know, I look for where I'm supported, because I go, oh, I can trust life there. I can trust that that's going to work for me. That's what we're looking to expand, because ultimately we want to trust our higher power implicitly in all areas of life. That's the gifted program. We get the full benefits.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't just get one thing fixed. We get to have it in every area of life. So we're blessed.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to invite you to join me. Again, I'm going to turn within. If you're listening and you're able to take a moment and close your eyes, it's helpful. If not, just follow me as I speak. I'm going to use my breath again to pull my attention inward. And in my mind's eye, I want you to imagine a big whiteboard, like a big chalkboard. And you're just kind of sitting there looking at it. And it's got all kinds of words and images and pictures and symbols. And it all represents the mind, all the thoughts in the mind. It's just full of words and images and ideas. And I like to imagine the hand of the higher power just reaching in with an eraser and watch it erase that whiteboard. And as it does, the mind becomes calmer and calmer, wiping away the stories, the pictures, the past, the future. The whole whiteboard becomes cleaned off, even the corners. Higher power is so helpful. Just kind of clears the mind, clears the whiteboard. Take a breath and see it as clear. Clear mind. And in the mind, in your mind, begin to allow images and ideas of how you are supported. Beginning with the very breath, the inhale and the exhale. The breath supports your life, and the body knows how to breathe. The beating of the heart, the brilliant body temple, the cells, the intelligence of the organs, the fluids, the very body that we are in is so supportive. And it operates at a level of efficiency. And it functions in a way that is so of service to you. As I mentioned earlier, become aware of the gravity. Become aware of the water, the shelter. If you have transportation, or whatever forms of transportation you use. Even the way that money comes and goes, and sometimes we experience not enough, I understand that, but there's a flow. Resources come in, and we use resources to get what we need. My goodness, the food in grocery stores. Take a moment to imagine everything in back of that. The people who make it, the animals, the minerals, the plants, all of life that is put together to produce what's on those shelves for you. Take a moment and appreciate the friends and family members, program friends, sponsors, teachers in your life. Some, perhaps you have that one or two special people that you remember fondly because they saw you or they did something for you that brought something out of you. No matter how hard the journey was at times, can you acknowledge that you're here now and something got you through? Sometimes I literally had to be carried by my higher power. Sometimes I fell down so many times, but something got me back up. Something believes in me. I know it. Something is here for me. If that something has an image or a name, notice that and appreciate that. Life can be trusted. Life is for me. My higher power is here for me. Breathe those words in. My higher power is here for me. And I can trust my higher power. Or maybe you need to back up one. I'm willing to learn how to trust my higher power. Or maybe you need to back up another one. Higher power, show me how to trust you, because I don't know how. Wherever you are is perfect, but find an ounce of willingness to grow in trust of your higher power so that you can give this higher power your life and your will. Take a nice deep breath. Allow a gentle smile to come to your face if that's comfortable. I always like to end meditations with a smile. It kind of lifts the energy up. And bring your attention back to the room you're in whenever you're ready and comfortable. That's just kind of a simple guided experience of helping us go within and just notice. So I hope that was good.
Very good. I honestly, I feel like an energy through me in a calm and loving way.
Nice.
Yeah,
Good.
really nice.
Good. All right, everybody. That's it for tonight. Thanks for
Thank you
hanging
so
out.
much as always.
Thank you,
So
Tammy.
see you
We're,
next.
we're here every week.
Yes.
So enjoy this webinar and share it with your friends, and come back next week.
Thank you. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.